Welcome to the Explainer. Okay, let's just dive right in today because we have a genuinely fascinating topic on our hands. We're going to unpack a really sharp analysis by Imran Badi. He's looking at an event that is literally poised to send shockwaves through the entire global energy market. We're talking about the United Arab Emirates' scheduled May 1st exit from OPEC. Now, I know it's super easy to look at this and think, oh, it's just another bureaucratic energy dispute over barrels and quotas. But as we're going to explore today, this move? It's about so much more than that. It is an absolute masterclass in modern geopolitical survival and the shifting grammar of global power. So, let's get into it.
Here is the catalyst for our whole discussion today, the breakup of a 60-year partnership. The UAE is officially leaving OPEC on May 1st. When announcing this, Energy Minister Suhail al-Mazroui called the decision a strategic policy choice taken after reviewing their current and future production policy. That's a really polite, highly diplomatic way of saying they're effectively walking away from a 6-decade-long institutional marriage. In the world of global energy, guys, this is an absolute earthquake.
And obviously, that poses a massive core question: why? Why in the world would you walk away from the world's most powerful oil club? To really wrap our heads around the gravity of this, we need to take a quick look at the history and then uncover the core economic conflict driving this historic breakup. So, jumping into the timeline for some context here, OPEC was founded back in 1960 to secure fair prices and regular supply. The UAE actually joined in 1967, initially through Abu Dhabi. And here's a wild fact: that was 4 years before the UAE even formally emerged as a federation in 1971. So, Emirati oil policy hasn't just been aligned with OPEC, it has been completely woven into OPEC's institutional DNA for nearly 6 decades. This isn't just some fringe player packing up and leaving. The UAE is one of the very few members out there with meaningful spare capacity. So this departure represents a massive shift in the control of the global oil supply.
It all boils down to a fundamental clash of identities. On the one hand, you have the role of a cartel member. That requires strict quota discipline. You have to limit your production to keep global prices stable. But on the other hand, you have the UAE's current reality. They are a growth producer. ADNOC, the state oil company, has been super explicit about this. They want to raise their lower carbon oil production capacity to 5 million barrels per day by 2027. Abu Dhabi has spent a fortune expanding its upstream capacity, and they essentially realized, hey, we can't keep investing like a high-growth producer while being forced to act like a constrained cartel member. The ambition and the discipline, they just became completely incompatible.
Which brings us to part 1 of the analysis, the green irony, funding the future.
Now, you might be wondering, wait a second, aren't we supposed to be moving away from oil? Exactly. The UAE is operating on what we can call a last great monetization mindset. They want to extract the absolute maximum value from their highly competitive oil assets right now, while the world still desperately needs massive volumes of oil, specifically to fund their transition into the energy systems of the future. Just wrap your mind around this staggering number: 100 gigawatts. That is the global clean energy capacity target by 2030 for Masdar, which is the UAE's state-owned renewable energy company. And they aren't just blowing smoke here, they've already hit 65 gigawatts. They are literally pumping oil today to build the green infrastructure of tomorrow. And the official UAE Energy Strategy 2050 makes this completely explicit. We're talking sweeping targets. They aim to triple the contribution of renewables, hit 19.8 gigawatts of installed domestic clean energy by 2030, mobilize a massive 150 to 200 billion dirhams in investment, and scale up hydrogen production to 1.4 million tons a year by 2031. This just proves that the UAE is not retreating from the energy sector at all. Actually, scratch that, they are completely broadening what energy power even means. They're moving from just pumping crude out of the ground to dominating next-gen tech, low-carbon fuels, and global logistics.
Let's move on to part 2, the geopolitical love triangle.
By stepping out of OPEC, the UAE is basically building a new open relationship on the global stage. They are smartly positioning themselves as a crucial swing state between 3 major axes. First up, Saudi Arabia. Riyadh remains the regional anchor for Gulf oil and geopolitics. But outside of OPEC, the UAE has way more breathing room to navigate their widening economic rivalry with Riyadh without having to constantly pretend it's all about Gulf solidarity. Second, the United States. Washington is still the indispensable security guarantor and strategic access point, especially when it comes to ties with Israel. But the UAE treats this relationship as transactional insurance now, not total dependence.
And third, China and the BRICS nations. This is the future pole, right? Energy demand, EV technology, new infrastructure. China isn't just a customer buying oil anymore. They are embedding themselves deeply into the UAE's next-generation energy ecosystem.
So, the big takeaway from all this maneuvering is that the new Gulf diplomacy is hybrid, it's layered, and it is unapologetically selective. Any state or analyst still viewing the world through those old Cold War-style binaries of being strictly pro-West or anti-West, they're going to completely misunderstand this new reality. The UAE is proving to everyone that you really don't have to pick just one side anymore.
That takes us to part 3, de-dollarization reality check.
Okay, so whenever we talk about the BRICS nations, de-dollarization is always the massive buzzword that gets thrown around. But we really need to ground this analysis with some sobriety. What we are looking at here is redundancy, not replacement. The US dollar isn't going to collapse tomorrow, and the UAE is absolutely not leading some dramatic anti-American monetary revolt. What they are actually doing is normalizing optionality in global trade. They're chipping away at a monopoly by making sure they have alternative ways to do business if they ever need to. So the hedging is very real, even if it's not a total overthrow of the petrodollar system.
And this hedging isn't just some abstract theory sitting in an academic white paper. We are seeing it happen. India recently made its very first crude oil payment to the UAE using rupees. Separately, there was a yuan-settled, liquefied natural gas trade linked right to ADNOC trading. Slowly but surely, the UAE is changing the rules of the global financial game, and they're doing it without firing a single shot or, sending an angry tweet.
So what's the ultimate global impact of all this shifting? Well, right now, shipping constraints and crises in places like the Strait of Hormuz are totally distorting the markets. But if we zoom out and look long-term, the UAE's exit leaves us with a structurally weaker OPEC. That means more competition for market share, potentially way more volatile pricing, and it leaves Saudi Arabia far more isolated as the system's residual stabilizer. This brings us to part 4, the ripple effects, specifically focusing on lessons for Pakistan.
You see, high-level geopolitics doesn't just happen in a vacuum. Based on October 2025 data from the State Bank of Pakistan, the UAE accounts for $697.7 million in remittances to Pakistan in a single month. That's huge, making them second only to Saudi Arabia. This perfectly grounds our whole story in real-world economics. It shows that a country like Pakistan has a massive, direct, and absolutely critical stake in the stability, the prosperity, and the strategic direction of the Emirates. Basically, when the UAE shifts its economic model, its regional partners feel that shift immediately.
And let me tell you, that shift is happening fast. Check out the staggering economic ambitions laid out in the We the UAE 2031 vision. They're planning to double their GDP to 3 trillion dirhams, raise non-oil exports to 800 billion dirhams, and expand foreign trade to 4 trillion dirhams. The absolutely crucial takeaway here is that regional partners need to stop treating the Gulf as politically static or just as some convenient rentier state to send expatriate labor to. The UAE is rapidly evolving into a high-tech logistics, finance, and renewables hub. Which leads us cleanly to 3 very actionable lessons for Islamabad and really any other regional partner. Step 1, change the mindset. Do not treat the Gulf as static. Step 2, quietly study these local currency and payment link experiments we talked about earlier. Doing that can really reduce transaction costs and external vulnerability. Step 3, shift the pitch. It's time to stop just seeking aid or exporting labor. Partners need to pitch themselves as serious players in food security, port connectivity, renewables, and digital infrastructure. You have to speak their new language.
As we wrap up this explainer, Imran Badi's analysis points to one incredibly powerful central thesis. Power today belongs to those who can stay central to multiple systems at once. I mean, that perfectly captures the essence of the massive shift we've explored today. The future doesn't belong to those who rigidly pick one camp and just denounce everyone else. It requires strategic dexterity, a ton of institutional competence, and the agility to navigate a truly multipolar world. So I want to leave you with a final thought to ponder today. Just look at the tectonic shifts happening right in front of us. The UAE walking away from a 60-year partnership to forge a completely new path, pumping billions into green energy completely funded by oil, pioneering new local currency trades. The landscape is fundamentally changing before our eyes. So my question to you is, are you holding on to the old world order, or are you ready for the triangle? Thank you so much for joining me to unpack this fascinating source material. Stay curious, keep learning, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.